Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to cover a very interesting topic with an individual who has dedicated all his life in building this organization, in making sure that an impact is felt not only in his community, but hopefully in other parts of the world as well. I'll introduce you to this individual who, as a leader, has played a very significant role in the global ecosystem. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the innovation for a self-reliant rural India, a conversation with a visionary leader, Dr. Anil Rajvanshi. As some of you know, or maybe all of you know, in India, innovation isn't just about technology. It's about relevance, resilience, and more importantly, the reach. With nearly 65% of India's population in rural areas still lacking access to clean energy, efficient farming tools, and sustainable livelihoods, the Frost and Sullivan Institute believes true self-reliance stems from scalable, sustainable, and inclusive innovations. This aligns with our Innovating to Zero mission, which champions grassroots efforts combining scientific rigor with local empowerment. We are honored to have with us Dr. Anil Rajvanshi, Director of the Nimbkar Agricultural Research Institute, in short, NARI, in Maharashtra, India. He is the recipient of Frost and Sullivan Institute's Visionary Leadership Best Practices Recognition 2025. For over 4 decades, Dr. Rajvanshi has pioneered renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and rural technology, combating energy poverty, improving food systems, and creating income opportunities through low-cost, high-impact solutions. In this session, we are going to talk about innovating for a self-reliant rural India. We will explore the R&D challenges, how frugality drives breakthrough thinking, and what it takes to scale meaningful change in resource-constrained settings. So please join me today. Let's talk about this. And of course, remember, if there are any questions, suggestions, opinions, ideas that you might have, please share that with us. We will make sure that we reach out to Dr. Rajvanshi and get his perspective. So with that said, Dr. Rajvanshi, welcome to today's session.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I must really thank you and Frost for spreading my word around. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome. So let me set the context so that we can have a bit more structure to our discussion. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is rural R&D in India. You know, the term rural R&D oftentimes is either not fully understood, oftentimes misunderstood by many people across the world. So I will need your help to explain to a lot of individuals what does that mean in terms of the challenges, etc. So my first question to you is, rural India is often called the backbone of the nation, especially with 65% of the population in rural India. In your view, having spent literally a lifetime working in that environment, why is rural India critical for India's overall development and self-reliance from your perspective?
You see, as you rightly said, 65% of the population is associated with rural India. And unless and until we bring them into the mainstream of development, India will not prosper. We have to really, today the scene is most of them try to move into urban India. It screws up everything in terms of infrastructure and etc. They are miserable because they leave their homes. So why not create conditions by which rural India itself can become very prosperous and that they don't have to leave, and then they will have a tremendous amount of earning in their own home, at the same time improve the quality of life. And that requires a very deep sound R&D specifically for their problems. You see, today the problems have always been solved in the urban India, and it filters down. Naturally, people are people the same everywhere, so they adapt to it. But what is required is based upon the resources. Cities and urban centers are very uh, intense energy societies. Rural India or any rural has a very decentralized energy sources. They don't have energy. So all the electricity is produced in these big centers and is transported to rural areas. So why not create conditions by which the basic amenities and the basic things exist in rural India, and so that they can utilize it. And the people in rural India are no different than those in the urban India. And in fact, don't have a single neuron less or more than the people in the urban areas. So why not create conditions for them to improve the quality of life? And that requires a very deep understanding of the problems and unique solutions using R&D.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where I think this whole concept of frugal innovation comes about, right? In my
Yes.
opinion. And I think you really pioneered that in the parts of the country that you're located. And I'm sure many of those innovations you've done are applicable not just in that part, but across the country and maybe across the world as well. So how would you define frugal innovation um, in this context? And what are some of the biggest misconceptions of innovation that you've had to overcome or address in dealing with this situation?
See, frugal innovations are more from less for more people. This is the basic definition of frugal. Now, when the resources are decentralized, they are not in the intense form, you have to think very deeply from the physics, from the engineering, from all other angles to create viable solutions. To give you an example, when we were developing the device called land stove for rural applications, then we use some of the most sophisticated technology used in the rocket engine design for producing the valves or producing the air fuel mixing. After all, this is the same air fuel mixing that takes place in the rocket engine that took place in this stove for mixing the fuel with the air for maximum combustion. Now, no country, no organization would do this type of thing unless until you are aware of the problems, unless until you have a DNA of the problems of the rural India, you will not think about it. But at the same time, what has happened all over the world is this tinkering approach. See, you go and ask a person, naturally, that person in rural setting will have a certain limited understanding, and he or she will say, can you please improve this? What we need to do is to think 100 steps ahead. If I improve this, it will give her X, but if I improve it by 100X, it will give her a much bigger and better ecosystem on how to improve her lifestyle. And that is what we did. When we went to these poor people, they said, can you give us a better chulha, which meant less smoke. Then they said that our lantern produces a lot of smoke. We said we will give you something which they never would have thought, a device which will be both give light and heat with a very high combustion efficiency. In fact, all fuels are dirty. All fuels are dirty. It is a combustion which makes them clean. So this is a very misnomer that people saying coal is dirty, this is dirty, but it's a combustion technology which makes them very clean. So we developed this technology by which it made it very, very clean. And so this is one of the aspects of the frugal innovations. Secondly,
Oh,
the sugarcane leaves was being burned. It was creating a huge amount of pollution. At the same time, it was taking away the useful resource. So we developed this very high technology gasifier way back when these gasifiers were not available to use that fuel for producing good quality energy for use in applications in rural areas.
excellent, excellent. And you're right, oftentimes you have to innovate, which means you have to take some of the scientific rigor to solve a
Yes.
problem
Yes.
and customize it for that particular solution in that particular setting. So, as you've done this frugal innovation, how have you balanced scientific rigor, affordability, which obviously is a big issue or a challenge that you face in rural parts of the country, world? How are you able to do that? And then, of course, the usability part. So, science part, affordability part, usability. How did you manage this? How did you balance this?
You don't manage. It is a challenge, and it
Yeah.
is a great satisfaction. That's all. You do this for your happiness. You get, I all over the world, people innovate because of the happiness. People say, no, no, I'll make money, etc. But that is very secondary, and then those people don't really innovate. Innovation comes by when you really have passion for innovation and you want to solve a problem. What happens to that is later on. For example, when we developed the first e-rickshaw in the world in 1995, nobody had heard about e-rickshaw concept. We were the pioneers in that. And it took almost 10, 15 years before e-rickshaw became a very major revolution in India. So these things were, those things were never there in the vision field. We just wanted to challenge. We just wanted to solve the problem with whatever knowledge we have. And when you have less resources, in fact, one of the things I always follow is Lord Rutherford, who was, and his lab had produced a lot of Nobel laureates in England. He had a very big sign. Americans have a lot of money, we don't, so let's think.
Well said.
and and thinking is something which sometimes and a lot of times is missing from the innovators, because if you sit and think, the solutions come, and that is what we have done in our lab. So we were able to so when you have very deep understanding of the problem, try to solve it, very innovative solutions come, then a lot of times you do not have the resources to make it on a large scale, then the events and other things take over. Because if a technology is good, it is picked up very rapidly. We have hardly made any money. In fact, that has been our greatest problem. We hardly made any money, but we feel very happy because that impact that we had in the country was amazing.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, and that's what rural innovation, frugal innovation does. Is you focus more on providing a solution to a local problem. You end up compromising on the look and feel. It's got to be simple, and yet it is sophisticated enough to actually solve the problem. So I'm sure you've had to do a lot of trade-offs in that process in your design and implementation. Would that be a fair statement that you have to do a lot of trade-offs as well?
Well, in a way it is, because you see, when we developed in 1995 the e-rickshaw, some of the major players who were in the three-wheelers, I went and talked with them. And they said, what e-rickshaw? Was you out of mind? There's nothing, this is all nonsense.
Yeah.
And now today, all of them are in this area. Now I said that, listen, with the resources that we have developed for the first time an e-rickshaw. Now, with the resources that you have, you can completely change it, make it better, etc. But the sad part is, even today, we are importing, all these big companies are still importing the motors and the basic components from China and not doing the basic R&D to produce all these things in-house or in India. And in those times, when 1995, when we developed our own motor. The batteries were Indian made, and a rudimentary controller, which I got it developed in Pune. And now the controllers are so fantastic. So this is something which should have taken much earlier if some of the captains of the industry would have taken uh, interest in that. And that is where, I have always addressed the captains that please have the vision. Is a vision which is missing, because they are always guided by Western countries. They are guided by the urban setting. If they have the vision for the rural areas, we will have a much better things produced in rural areas for rural applications. And the interesting part is the rural applications can go back to urban areas. For example, high-tech farming. It can become an urban revolution if it is followed very properly. So these are the things, because technology is technology, whether it is for rural areas or urban areas, it follows the same philosophy and the technological evolution.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. And as we see today, right, there's a lot of urban farming that is happening. And I
Right.
think the origination of all this was
Correct.
rural India, right?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
very, very exciting. But I know if you look at, from an impact and scale standpoint, creating one powerful solution, of course, is a start. So you answer, there's a challenge, you solve the problem. But if you have to drive real change, it requires reach, it requires relevance, it requires resilience, and of course, scale in a rural development environment. So, from your experience, which of your innovations that you did at the Nimbkar Agricultural Research Institute do you feel has had the most transformative impact? And if you can provide some perspective as to why, that would be very useful for our audience.
For example, we developed, when we were working with this land stove, with these unelectrified hut. So in 25 huts, we put these land stoves. We start talking to these very poor people and finding about what their problems were. And naturally, we found that they were spending a lot of money, almost 300, 400 rupees. And I'm talking about 2010, 15 years ago, on medicines. So I was wondering why they spend so much time for so much money on medicines, and they were getting sick and etc. So then we realized that they are eating very poorly. And the reason for that was that this woman would go and work in the sun for 7 to 8 hours, then come home, and she was supposed to cook for the whole family. So she being so tired, and I don't think anybody in their right mind would cook at that time. So they would make just very thick bhakris or rotis, and they would eat with very little what they had, with chili powder, salt, and something else. And when you do not have enough food, then actually you get sick. So we started thinking that wouldn't it be nice to have rural restaurants where they can go and get subsidized food, so they don't have to cook, they will not pollute. At the same time, they will get good, wholesome food at a very low price. So we developed this idea of rural restaurants. Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation heard about this. So they invited me in Delhi to deliver a talk. This was 2012. From all over India, people had come, and there was a very big team from the Tamil Nadu. And they heard my lecture and etc. And after within 6 months, Amma's Kitchen started.
Oh, that's right.
And then within a couple of years, Shiv Bhojan started in Maharashtra and in other states. So today, because of and in fact, the interesting part is that in 2012, when I presented my paper and my ideas, I had put a thali at 10 rupees, and till today, the thali is still at 10 rupees, which is being sold. And because of this, around 1 to 1.5 crore meals are given to the poor people. I did not get a single penny. People realized that where the idea came from, but it had a tremendous impact. So I have a feeling that when the idea is great, no matter who takes it up, it will have a far-reaching consequence, and it goes. There have been large number of cases. Naturally, Mr. Steve Jobs stole every technology, and he made a lot of money. But there were none of his own ideas. Ideas, when they come out, they come sometimes much ahead of time. But when a time comes, they spread like anything. And that has given me a great satisfaction. It has not given me a single penny, but the satisfaction that a lot of ideas like that. Same thing in 1990, we set up the India's policy on biomass power generation. And that came again from by my looking around that all the agriculture residues was being burnt, and it was producing pollution and total waste. So we did a complete Fulton Taluka analysis way back in 1990, and set up a nice report that every taluka has enough residues to produce all its electricity demands through the biomass power generation. It became a national policy. And the Prime Minister took it in 1995, 96 and became a national policy. And till today, 10,000 megawatt of power stations are installed based upon this. So this is another very major thing that came from our institute. And the same thing was with e-rickshaw. So these
Yeah.
are we ourselves, because you see, if you um, I don't know how many, I'm sure that a lot of your listeners would know the great example of General Electric. General Electric was the pioneer in industrial R&D. And Langmuir was the father of that. And I became so interested. In fact, I interacted with the Langmuir's some assistants when I was a student there in University of Florida. And I read everything about Langmuir. And he developed these fantastic new technologies, but was the basic power of General Electric, which took it up on a large scale for manufacturing and selling. That I didn't have. And a lot of such people don't have. But if the idea is good, it is taken up.
Certainly, certainly. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, all the transformative things that you've done, I think are, I consider them very practical, very relevant, resilient, and more importantly, impactful. In fact, you mentioned the development of biogas or biomass for electrical production, power generation, and the unintended consequences of that is it's green. And today, one thing that we need in every part of the world is green solutions.
Right.
So by doing what you did, you've also helped in climate change, you've helped in the environment, and so therefore, this is a technology that I think will resonate very well with many parts of the country in India and of course abroad as well, where an energy which is a core to any economic development must try and be as green as possible. And I know many states in India are focused around that for now as well. So very impactful. And I did not know that the restaurants that you started ended up also happening in Tamil Nadu, which I visit quite often.
Yeah.
And yes, I have seen Amma's kitchen there. And now every time I see it, I will know the origins of that particular idea and concept.
Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And the same and
Very
the
well
same
done.
thing, and the same thing is now we are doing in providing very clean drinking water for rural schools, because
Okay.
children are the, from where if your stomach is all right, then your
Right.
brain also becomes all right. And most of these children do not get good water, so they have a lot of diarrhea and etc. And it affects their learning and it affects a lot of things later on in their life. So we developed long ago very unique technology using solar energy for completely cleaning the water without electricity. It is just heating the water. And we had developed this in the last 10, 12 years. And then we said we will put it in the schools. So we got nice funding from CSR. And now we have put it in two schools, and 400 children are getting very clean water, just like what your bottled water, at a fraction of price. At the same time, this is rainwater harvesting, because the groundwater contains a lot of salts, etc. And so we felt that the rainwater harvesting with the solar technology will be an excellent thing for the school children. The design was made in such a manner to make children aware of STEM, because they operate the system themselves. And unless and until they learn by doing with their hands, they will not be interested in science and technology. And that is what we feel that should be done. And I have put this in two schools. This is like a donation from our institute. And I am asking all the schools to just replicate it on a large scale. And
Fantastic.
I have a feeling that this will also be a very major revolution in trying to bring in clean drinking water for these school children.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is, like you rightly said, a major challenge in many parts of the world, not just
Yeah.
rural, but other parts of the world, and of course in India, where clean drinking water is not that easily accessible. And that, of course, has its own impact. But, I wanted to also understand, what lessons can government, government can play a very important role in pushing these ideas. So from your perspective, what lessons can governments take from these rural models that are out there, some of which you have developed, and enforce or encourage rural India to become more resilient, leveraging all the frugal innovation? What would be your advice to the governments?
Well, first advice is that through your platform, that's a very important platform, this world will go around. I must tell you that right from beginning, when I came back from America, I was on very high-powered committees in Planning Commission and Advisory Board of Energy, etc. You see, the governments work on a very different setting all over the world. Except that when I went to United States, I used to ask my professor that how things work in America, and he said, in those times, not anymore. In those times, experts were invited. They were asked to look at a problem. Once the report was made, government followed it thoroughly. Today, most of the reports simply go in a corner, sitting on the bookshelf, and nothing happens. And this is where the problem lies, because when the what we call in niyat or the intentions are not correct, when there are other issues which help you in make the decision, then the bringing the experts together and telling them to solve a problem sometimes does not work. And that is where the real thing has to be thought of. And that is why where I always have tried to talk with the captains of the industry. That it is a industry which can really take this up, because they are the ones who produce goods. They are the ones who have the leverage, the power, the muscle power, and everything to innovate, and that should happen. But again, the question is, there has to be some sort of a vision for the people who are at the helm of the affairs. And that is what I feel. So these things are available. Publicity does take place. In fact, I'm very much sure that nobody really knows where the innovation of the e-rickshaw came. Though there are a lot of films have been made, people have really made out of their way, telling it started from Nimbkar Agricultural Research Institute. I didn't even know about it. But the question is that once the momentum starts, then it has its own evolutionary path.
Correct. Very good. Very good. Now, I hope that, through our conversation today and through other means, we will, of course, try and make sure that many of the government institutions, organizations in India, and of course, world over, get to know the work that you're doing.
And
But,
also,
how do we? Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, also, government needs to help in setting up more institutes like NARI. See, one NARI will not help.
Cannot do it, yes.
We need many, many more, and there are intelligent people in this country so that a good funding could be given to a lot of such institutes where hardcore development for the rural problems take place through very excellent science and technology. No tinkering, no jugaad. Jugaad is the worst thing that you can do. You require and so that is why we need excellent people, some of the best people in rural R&D. I, in fact, a lot of talk to the people in sometimes in the people who are working in ISRO and etc. Come and join or do something like that.
Right.
In fact, the startups are mostly software startups. There are very, very few, and we take very great pride that our work in 1981 was the first deep tech startup in India.
That long
We did
ago.
not
Wow.
we did not know about startups at that time. We did not know about these things, but I think that was the one really startup.
So this is perfect because, obviously innovation can never be static. Innovation is dynamic. It has to continuously grow. And like you rightly said, with so much emphasis on startups all across India, almost every state has a startup ecosystem, either it's in place or being developed. How do we, from your experience, get the young minds start to look at, or young researchers to look at rural uh, sort of markets, rural areas, solving rural problems? What do you think we can do to get this whole system working for us?
You see, first of all, the startup is a very strange thing. You do startup when you have a lot of experience. When you put youngsters, how can they do the startup, especially deep tech startup? They have no idea. They have no experience. They have no knowledge about a lot of things. What is required are the mentors for these startups who have 15, 20 years of experience. They put this young team and then excellent funding, either by the government or because you see the corporates will only look at the bottom line. But it is the government because all over the world, including United States, now the situation is different. But the United States also started so many things. It was by the government of United States. You put the seed, you put the initial money. A lot of them will fail, but there is a desire. Here are the problems, and this is what you need to find a solution. And unless until these things happen, there will be very little startup which will happen. I go and give lectures in IITs, etc., telling the students that you have to get into the real hardcore engineering, because ultimately is the hardcore engineering. You cannot sell software to a person who has empty stomach. You cannot sell software to a person who does not have enough things to do. So what is required is that you need a very good engineering solutions so that their life can be improved. And high-tech farming is one part. Today, a lot of high-tech farming through AI is coming, but it requires a lot of huge amount of infrastructure, huge amount of investment, and not every farmer can afford it. So these are the things which require very good brains. Youngsters have very lot of confidence and lot of enthusiasm, but they need to be guided. And the guidance can come by the people who have 15, 20 years or more experience.
Experience and act as a mentor, like you rightly said.
Exactly.
Obviously, the transformation or the interest of people in urban who live in urban areas to rural oftentimes can be a challenge. People like to be in urban environments. But from your perspective, having done this now for so many years, what role do you think can rural schools, for example, or communities play, or institutions play in actually driving innovation, supporting innovation at grassroots level? So, we have a huge population, a lot of educated people at the lower levels. How do we get those people motivated to work and build some innovative solutions because they are close to the problems and challenges?
You see, it has to be a societal change. Today, everybody wants to earn more money. Money they feel comes from urban areas. Money they feel comes from rising to a certain level and joining big companies, not only in India, going abroad, etc. So there is this idea of making money. They just do not want to put in enough resources, enough of their own thing to help the people surrounding. You have to be an idiot like me. You have to be attached to the story of India. Otherwise, why would I leave everything in America when the whole country was going to United States? I left everything and came to rule India because that attachment somehow we as elders have not been able to tell the youngsters and not in enough manner to be attached to the story of India, to love this country, to make this country great. They will go abroad anywhere, but they would not like to stay here. And that really bothers me because when I talk to these poor kids or the rural kids, their main thing is how do we get into the best institutes from there. So I ask them why you want to get into IITs, etc. Because then we can go abroad. So I said, but the problems are here. For example, we have a farming all around us. All the children from the farmers would not like to do any more farming. Isn't this really sad?
Sad, yes.
How can maybe I will be able to inspire some urban folks into getting into farming, but all these children, because they have seen all around, and every time they are just focused, their films they see, the advertisement they see, they always focus on this fancy, great life of the film actors and the influencers, and this is what they want to emulate. It becomes very difficult. And this has to be a societal thing where whole society undertakes this, that no, we will challenge not only people in urban areas, but also in rural areas on how to be associated, how to be attached to the story of India and make this country great. Because nobody wants to leave their home. Home provides a psychological support. And so nobody wants to leave, but they go, they suffer all sort of indignities, but they want to stay. So this is a very major challenge, which I have not been able to solve, but this is something which I want to go help or do something through your this platform.
Perfect. Perfect. No, I totally agree. And like you rightly said, it is a societal change that has to
Yes,
happen
yes, yes,
to get the whole thing. And at the end of the day, every country is very keen on growing their economy. For
yes.
economic development to happen, depending on how the country is structured, in this particular case, India, with 65% of the population base in rural, if this group of people move up economically, suddenly the country prospers, countries become successful, and the GDP levels or metrics grow quite considerably moving forward.
And
So
I and I,
I
and I
think.
must say, that there are a lot of very interesting things are happening in this country. What
Sure.
is needed is the exposure of a lot of these interesting things to a lot of to the rest of the people, so that they will, for example, when I go and talk to people, they are surprised ki my work here gave me Padma Shri. They always thought that somewhere from outside I came, and so I tell them that whatever great work you do, you can reach the highest level, but you require very great amount of dedication and hard work.
True. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that is absolutely required. That remains constant. If you work hard, if you stay focused, impact will be felt, whether in the short term or long term.
Yeah.
Though, obviously, we're coming to the end of our session today. Just wanted to get from your perspective, if you wanted to give one message to everybody who's going to listen to this session that we've had, what would you like them to actually do, support you, whether it's a project, whether it's a certain area? Of course, funding is definitely part of it, but wanted to get your perspective, how people can help, how can they participate, how can they support you in your journey, and hopefully that will have a much bigger impact from where you are today.
First of all, I need very good people.
Okay.
I do not need money, because money comes when good ideas and good work starts. I have always believed that the money follows great innovation, great ideas. So I need very good people to come and help us in our effort. And all the work that we are doing, it requires much more, still a lot needs to be done. And in all these things, I need just good people. That's all. Good people, very great brains in rural development. And I will offer my NGO as a platform if they want to do that. I'll be
Fabulous.
delighted. I'll be delighted.
Now, this has been an extraordinary session that we've had, Dr. Rajvanshi. Thank you so much for your time. I will tell you from my own perspective, I'm not just inspired, but I'm also supremely honored to meet someone like you who has dedicated their life to making innovation happen for rural India, making people's lives better, and delivering the impact that many people only aspire to do, want to do, and oftentimes never do. So you're a role model for many people. I hope many people follow on your footsteps and come back and support the overall development of rural India and, of course, India in general. So I want to thank you once again for all the great work you do. I want to thank.
You have been very kind in your praise. I have no great things that you have attributed to me. I just wanted to keep my head above the water. That's all.
Fabulous, fabulous. And we will hope to continuously support you in that direction.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
I
very
wish you
much.
once again the very best to you and to the entire institute for
Thank
what
you.
you are doing. So thank you very much. And I wish you the very best. Take
Thank
care.
you very much, Aroop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.